Anyway, those crimes were brought about by hunger, the greatest crime of all. I mean, the food riots of Paris were the desperate acts of starving people who begged for crusts, while Louis and Marie Antoinette feasted upon the delicacies of the world. And even now, what is needed by so many is plain to see. Rather than squandering the people's taxes on the immoralities of armies and navies and wars, should not America make itself great by the treatment of its people?
When I was a lad in Thetford, it was not an uncommon sight to see gaunt and ragged children, no bigger than myself, dragged to the gallows and hanged because they might have been in school, learning to make a place for themselves in the world. They had instead been hounded into the streets, driven to petty thefts by the destitution of their parents and the gnawing hunger of their bellies. One day when I was but 13, an exciting crowd gathered beneath the shadow of the sea and the noose, and a young girl was dragged through the streets. Amy Hutchins. She was only 17. And she might have been the most beautiful creature I had ever seen, except for the bones that showed under her dress. She needed not a whalebone corset to shape her figure, but rather a whale's blubber to cover her.
I ran along beside her, King's men swatting at me as at a fly, and asked her what she had done that they would hang her. She gazed blankly, as though already dead. They pulled her away, smeared her face, her hands, her dress with tar, mocked her with a short prayer, then dropped her to her strangled death. Then a fire was kindled. Soon, all trace of her was gone. When the last wisp of smoke had carried her off, I returned home to a supper I could not stomach. Told my father of the horrors I had seen. He looked long at me. At last, broke his bread and mopped the gravy from his plate. It is indeed horrible, and it is good that you feel it. But what must I do? I said. Eat your supper and be glad that you have at least felt it. And he would have put another sopping piece of bread into his mouth, but I stopped him. Is there nothing to be done for the wretched of the earth, like her? He put down his bread. Nothing can be done about the way of the world. What is there that such as we can do? Leave such things to the government. Then he roused himself from the table and left me alone to contemplate this thing called government. I tell you, I knew from that moment something must be wrong in the system of government. Everywhere, beyond the eye of common observation, teems a mass of wretchedness with scarcely any chance but to expire in poverty or infamy. All my travels throughout the world only confirmed that the present state of civilization is absolutely the opposite of what it should be. The great mass of the poor are become an hereditary race, and the condition of millions in every country is far worse than if they had been born before civilization began. Have you not seen it yourself as you make your way through the world? Old bent men clothed in rags, holding out a cup in hopes of your kindness. Or blind and infirm men and women wasting away for want of a doctor. And surely would you not think of your own daughter when you see a girl? Her childish looks betrayed with paint and powder. prowling the streets, bartering her body for pennies. And it can be said, in any country in the world, our poor are happy. Neither ignorance nor distress is to be found among them. Our jails are empty of prisoners, our streets of beggars. The aged are not in want. When these things can be said, then may that country boast. But we have seen those people on the streets, homeless, dispossessed of all. So I take up their cause as the cause of all humanity, because in its natural state, the land was the common property of the human race, and the dispossessed of that land have a moral claim for remuneration for that property lost.